So I talked last time about the different the dressing combinations. So today we're going to keep it all to different styles of vinaigrettes. And I'm going to do a demo of one. And the one that I demo today, I'm going to pop in my refrigerator, and then I'm going to pull it out again on Thursday, and we're going to actually use that for something that I'm going to mix together on Thursday. That will be a kind of going off of what Doreen had suggested, a what's in your cupboard recipe. So a shelf stable, nutrient dense, vegetarian protein salad on Thursday. The thing with vinaigrettes is they're super, super simple. They're typically very, very reasonable as far as cost, and they're really versatile. You can do a huge variety of flavor profiles by having some sort of fat or oil, having an acid, and then whatever types of seasonings or other stuff that you want to put into it from there. So I'm going to start with going over some oil suggestions, and then acid suggestions, and then we'll take it from there. So I have just a sampling of, this is by no means the total list. Here are some that I do with vinaigrette. So I have the standard olive oil, I have an avocado oil, I have a sesame oil, and I have a flaxseed oil. Based on what I'm wanting the flavor to be, and based on how it will be used in the cooking or food preparation process, will determine which type of oil I would use. So some of these vinaigrettes I actually use as marinades as well. So they're, again, super versatile. So the thing with oils is knowing which ones you want to put in for something that's not going to be heated at all. And then some oils or fats that should be or can be heated and cooked. The thing is that oils are really, really touchy when it comes to temperatures. And so of these four that I have here, really the avocado oil is the only one that's probably relatively safe to heat. Sesame oil, I use that for, like, if I marinate a batch of mixed vegetables and then want to saute them, I will use sesame oil for that. Flaxseed oil, never, ever, ever heat. And olive oil, it's touchy. You want to keep the temps super, super low. What happens with fats, and stop me if you already know this and it's just repetitive, but fats, when they are heated, can change their molecule structure and become not so good for us. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. And certain ones like avocado oil, you have a little bit more leeway as far as what kind of temperatures it can handle. I love the flavor of avocado oil. Not everybody does. So that would be another thing to consider. I love the flavor of both sesame oil and toasted sesame oil, especially if I'm wanting to do something that's a little bit more kind of Asian South Pacific influenced, and or sometimes even a little bit maybe Indian influence. It's nice. I love flaxseed oil because it's just kind of mild and kind of like flaxseed oil is a comfort one for me. Olive oil, I tend to do the most of, but just because economically, it tends to be, of these choices, less expensive. I have tried doing some where I melt or soften coconut oil, and then try to mix some sort of marinade or whatever. It doesn't work real well. And coconut oil, again, is another strong flavor. So today we are going to start with olive oil, because that's what I will be using for when we mix this into something on Thursday. I am not super good in my cooking and baking skills with measuring. I do a dump and pour method. So I actually got out this today that I don't typically use, but it has the measurements on the side. So as I dump and pour, I can then tell you where I'm at based on the side that it has measurements, because typically I just pour it into some sort of like cereal bowl and mix it from there. So it looks like I'm going to probably be doing about a 1/2 to 3/4 cup of olive oil. So it's quite a bit, which again goes back to why I'm using olive oil and not flax oil for this, because that would get super expensive. And then we'll talk about acids. So acids typically are things that would be a vinegar and or citrus would be the most common for acids. There's other options as well. I have never, Megan, have you? I have never done white vinegar for a vinaigrette before, just because there's other options.
Yeah, I feel like I've just tried everything.
Well, so if you've had success with it, I don't know that I've ever tried it, just because there's all of these other fabulous flavors that I've done instead. My typical go-tos, the most frequent that I use, are apple cider vinegar and lemon juice, because of flavor profile and because of the digestion benefits to apple cider vinegar. The other ones that I do use some, brown rice vinegar, actually I do use a lot for marinades. Brown rice vinegar and toasted sesame oil, fabulous combination, especially if you do like just a little bit of fresh garlic minced in it and maybe some ginger. It's fabulous. I also do lime juice, some, but again, it does change it a little bit. But a nice combination that I like some is toasted sesame oil, a little bit of lime juice in with the brown rice vinegar. And again, you're getting a little bit more of that Asian South Pacific influence. Balsamic vinaigrette, I do that typically I do that either with avocado oil or olive oil. And again, that's one that I do with marinating, like especially if you marinate like Brussels sprouts in balsamic vinaigrette and avocado oil and then roast them. That's amazing. And then I have red wine vinegar, which I don't really care for the flavor profile of that one, so I don't use it a whole lot. But it's definitely beneficial in some things. And I guess I've used that one more like if I'm doing more of a marinade. So for today, I'm going to do apple cider vinegar and just a touch of lemon juice for my acids. And so I'm at like 3/4 of a cup of olive oil. So this is actually going to take me up to about a 1.25 cups. 1.25 to a 1.25 there. And then I'm going to top off the rest with lemon juice to take me to about a 1.5 cups. So basically what I've done is I'm at about half oil, half acid. General rule of thumb. Megan, anything to add to that? You agree or disagree?
No, I agree. I think it's going well. It's hard to see, so.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. From what I hear, it sounds right.
Doreen, Megan can't see my counter, so she's only going by what she can hear. I am next going to start talking about flavor add-ins, and I'm going to start with sweeteners, although there's not going to be a sweetener actually in this particular recipe that I'm doing. So we've talked about added sugar and sweeteners and stuff the last 2 sessions. I'm going to show some samples of things that you can do in a quick and easy vinaigrette, especially like for a salad, if you like just a touch of sweetness to it without adding a whole bunch of sugar or adding any sugar at all. So I am super, super fortunate because my husband has this hobby where he makes his own homemade maple syrup every spring. And so I have homemade maple syrup in my fridge. So if I were going to do something in this quantity of about 1.5 cups of oil and acid, I would probably not even add more than a 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon of the maple syrup. And it would just add just a tiny little touch of sweetness. Another option is honey. And honey, if you can get a better quality honey, they tend to get super expensive. So they're not great that way. They aren't super accessible. Also, depending on what part of the world it comes from, it's not necessarily great as far as eco-friendliness either. However, as far as what can benefit our immune system and digestive system. Yeah, Manuka honey is super expensive, but really, really beneficial in a lot of immune support ways. And when you're talking about glycemic index of a food, which means how quickly a food can spike our insulin reaction, a higher quality honey doesn't spike as quickly as like sucrose. So honey is another option. And again, I wouldn't add that much, just a little bit. Now, a more economical option is adding any type of fruit juice. So I have a pouch of apple juice. I would probably only add like maybe a quarter of this. And then what ends up happening sometimes when you add fruit juice is it gets a little bit too runny based on what you want. So paying attention to that. Another option though is to add a little bit of fruit. So if you have a blender, especially a high-speed blender, I could dump all of this into the blender along with, actually for this quantity, I might end up using the whole little clementine orange. Sorry, Megan, I'm holding this up in front of the screen and you can't see it. It's a clementine orange. I may add the whole thing into my blender and just blend in an orange, and then that would add a little bit of sweetness as well as a little bit of fiber, all the wonderful vitamin C that comes from that. So that's another great option. And then of course I pulled out the stevia as well. Stevia is not going to have a glycemic impact, and it is all natural. There are some stevia can be controversial. Number one, not everybody likes it. Number two, I have a sister-in-law that doesn't eat it because it gives her indigestion. So just like any other food, it's going to affect every biome a little differently. And then the third reason is there's a school of thought that anything that we add to increase sweetness to our food is just helping our palate to stay attached to that sweet flavor profile, which isn't necessarily doing our mental attachment to food a whole lot of good. So I'm not adding any sweetener to mine, but those were some suggestions on that. Other flavors though, I will be adding in just I'm going to do a shake or two. So I'm going to say about a quarter teaspoon of black pepper. And then I have a sea salt. This one is a pink sea salt, and I'm going to do about the same with the sea salt, is about a quarter teaspoon of sea salt. Sea salt, it doesn't take a whole lot, and it really does impact the flavor throughout. And I'm going to add about a teaspoon to teaspoon and a half of parsley flakes. And really any herb or spice that you have in your selection can be added to a vinaigrette. So if you want something that maybe has a little bit more of a Mediterranean flavor, you could do oregano, maybe a little bit of thyme, a little bit of basil, anything like that. We've already talked about doing the garlic ginger combination. Any of those would work. Other suggestions, I have coconut aminos. I don't do soy, so this is a similar flavor profile to soy. So this would be something, again, that we could take along with that sesame oil and brown rice vinegar. I've never done this, but I pulled out my sriracha. Has anybody ever added sriracha to a vinaigrette? No, I haven't either. But I'm thinking it could probably work if you really wanted to give it a shot. I don't know what you would pair that with food-wise. I've added tahini. If I'm doing something that's more like a Asian-influenced coleslaw, I'll add tahini to the vinaigrette, and that gives you, not only is it a flavor thing, but it also, tahini has a lot of great, it's a nutrition powerhouse as well. Instead of the clementine orange, sometimes I've added maybe quarter cup of wild blueberries, frozen wild blueberries, if I'm putting it into a blender. If you want something that's more creamy, but not like a heavy ranch or Caesar, then sometimes I've mixed up a vinaigrette and then just added like a tablespoon of mayo, especially if it's a mayo that has a good clean ingredient list. And then it makes it just a little bit creamier. And again, you kind of have to play around with it. So if you're going to do your oil and your acid mix and then a little bit of apple cider vinegar. It gets a little runny. You can add a little bit of mayo. It thickens it up a little bit, and then you've got a sweeter, creamier dressing. And this one is, I add this flaxseed, ground flaxseed to some occasionally because I like the added fiber. I like the nutrition that it offers me. And flax seeds are just another nutrition powerhouse. The problem with flax seeds is the texture. And I don't mind it, but some people do. And also, if you're not going to use it immediately, flaxseed can sometimes act in a dressing similar to what chia seed does with a liquid, and it gets it a little bit thick and murky if it sits for any amount of time. So keep that in mind. Whoa, lost a vinegar down the sink. And then the last thing that I have pulled out here for flavor is mustard, and I will be adding mustard to this, probably half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. So no, I have no recipe. And then it's just a quick blend. Just whisk it all up together until it looks to be pretty well blended, and whoop, you're ready to go. This isn't necessarily one that I would now, I don't know that I would want this just on a regular like greens and veggie salad. It would be a little bit strong, but with what I'm adding on Thursday, when we mix it all together, you'll see it will balance the flavors of all of the other things. We're going to be doing wild rice, some freeze-dried blueberries, some carrots, chive, mung beans, and we'll talk about those ingredients then. So, questions, comments, thoughts? No one.
Are you just going to put that in the fridge now?
I am going to put this in the fridge, which means that on Thursday, I'm going to pull it out probably about an hour before we meet to give it time to for the olive oil to come back to room temperature so that I can whisk it together again. Otherwise, it will be just really grainy and thick and solid.
Would you wait longer than Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Would you wait longer than 3 days? Or is that about the longest you would wait?
I have. No, I have. When it's something like this, so it has a little bit of salt, so that's a preservative. It has, the vinegar is a bit of a preservative. I would say I probably wouldn't have this in my refrigerator longer than probably about 2 weeks, but it would be fine up to that long. It's just that every time I would store it in my refrigerator, and then every time you take it out, you'd have to let it sit for a bit so that you could whisk it to be used again. Other experiences, other thoughts and combinations that I haven't thought of or I didn't pull out. For vinaigrettes are so versatile, and I've kind of gotten to the point where, yes, I have a couple other store-bought salad dressings in my refrigerator for only one that I use, and I pull that out when I just need something super quick and I just don't have time to whip something together. But like you saw, like literally I can pull out 3 bottles and 2 little jars and have something together in less than 3 minutes. So it doesn't take that long. And then I have a couple other store-bought dressings just in case we have company and not everybody's a vinaigrette fan and their palate is more used to the store-bought things. But this is a way that you can get so much greater nutrition and digestive support and immune support in a lot of ways. Anytime you're adding herbs and spices, think immune support. Ginger, garlic, parsley, oregano, thyme, fennel. Fennel is great for digestion. Anytime you're using anything out of your spice cupboard, you can think that you're probably supporting your immune system in a pretty great way. Other suggestions, though, other things that you guys have done or seen or prefer dressing wise, and like I said, I don't only use these for dressings, for vegetables and salads. I also do for marinades. So if you're marinating vegetables, marinating any types of meats or fish, whatever.
I know I like the berries. I like raspberry or whatever usually.
Mm-hmm. And it's not that hard if you've got anything
to be strong, strong fruit,
anything that you can put into a blender And then again, you have your blender to clean up, but otherwise it's something that's done in 3 minutes. So super easy. Go ahead, Doreen.
Chocolate coconut, like what is the difference between the solidified coconut? You know, the liquid one is what, MCT or whatever. Like, what can you cook? Obviously, you can cook with the hardened, you know, and for like sauteing and stuff. But I know you said I like coconut flavor, so I've never tried it in a dressing. What are your thoughts about that?
It's really, really good for you. So if there's ways for you to use it, I've never used the liquid. Are you talking about the medium chain triglyceride liquid coconut oil?
Yeah, the one that suggests is like in coffee or whatever, you know. I mean, I know you can take the hot coffee, you can take the solid one too and just let it melt, but
right. You're talking about
when you talked about the MC, that one you can't. To me, you can't taste coconut. So if you want the coconut taste, you know.
Yep.
Megan, the solidified one, but I don't know. I have not truly investigated it.
Have you experimented with the liquid, the medium chain triglyceride coconut oil that is liquid at room temperature in any types of cooking or?
The only thing I've used it in is smoothies. I generally don't buy it because it's quite expensive and not local. But I mean, she's right in the sense that it is a much easier product to use, especially for something like a salad. Because I think coconut oil in general is really hard to use for certain applications like salad because it is solid at room temperature, unless we're in the middle of summer, maybe. So I definitely think it's a good idea. If you like it, then you should definitely try to use it in your salad or whatever you're using your vinaigrette with.
I don't have I have not experimented with that one. And the only other thing I'm concerned about with that one, can that one take high temps? Can you cook with it? I know that the coconut oil that's solid at room temperature is good for cooking.
Right. Yeah, but not I don't think that.
I don't think so either. So just doing more as a vinaigrette, I think would be absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, a lot, like you said, very expensive. What do you think maybe to bring the cost down? I mean, a single serving would be, you know, no big deal. But if you're, you know, you had like, what was 3/4 cup of an oil, that's a lot in expense. What could it mix with?
So you could mix 2 different oils, just like I mixed 2 different acids today.
Mm-hmm.
You can certainly do, you know, if you wanted to do a 1/4 cup of the MCT coconut oil and a 1/4 cup of, to me, a 1/4 cup of either the sesame oil or flax oil. Both of those are expensive too, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Would be good flavor combinations.
What about grapeseed oil? No, is it grapeseed? No.
Grapeseed would be, grapeseed would be good with that one too. I don't have grapeseed right now in my cupboard, but that would be good with it too. And I like grapeseed. That would be another one. I just don't happen to have it today.
High temp. You can cook with grapeseed too, correct? Like grapeseed, that could take high temps. I thought.
I think no, you would want to keep the temps a little bit more medium, but yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So that's today. I'll pop this in my refrigerator and pull it out again Thursday. You'll see it again Thursday, and we'll mix it together with a nutrient-dense, shelf-stable vegetarian protein salad. So I'll have a recipe for a homemade ranch dressing. It's the one that the kitchens use. If you've tasted that one so that one will be in your email today, along with a couple resources. And then the resources are still, like I told you, I had so many about the added sugar last week that there's still a couple to come on that. And then Jeremy Van from Minnesota Department of Health sent me some infomercials or infographics as well that I'll add in. And I'll see you on Thursday.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Michelle.